It took me a really long time to unpack all of my unhealthy belief systems around people pleasing. And while I picked at it over the years, nothing really resonated with me. I kept hearing the same thing, that people pleasing stemmed from childhood trauma, trying to manage other people's emotions for them. It was a way to keep yourself safe. So of course now I understand emotional trauma and how it impacts us. And yes, there are multiple layers to what makes up our personality. But even with that knowledge, I can genuinely say that my people-pleasing stemmed primarily from social conditioning. First, my parents telling me with zero malice who I needed to be in order to be accepted. These are the things that good girls do. So when I clued into the damage that this causes in the development of a healthy self-esteem, I remember making a conscious choice that I would never use that terminology with my daughter. I would never describe her as a good girl or a bad girl. There was only ever encouragement of self-expression. I don't care if it falls into a set of social rules or standards. Do what feels good for you. Second, my mom role modeled two things to me: low self-worth and centering the man in the home. In terms of self-worth, my mom constantly criticized her body. She was always on diets. She felt uncomfortable in her skin, and she would often tell me, "You can't eat that. That'll make you fat." And while this was never overtly expressed, I learned that a woman's value comes from her appearance. We also never had a single discussion about boundaries. My mom and my dad were incredibly codependent, and they isolated themselves from the world, including my family at times. There was no such thing as boundaries in romantic relationships, which is why I had none in mind. This was role modeled as healthy relationship dynamics. It explains why I ended up in a relationship with a drug addict and a narcissist. Now, my dad was a very kind man, but as I mentioned, I watched my mom placate his ego. I learned this was normal. And it's because of these things that I became a people pleaser. I was taught by my family and by society to do it. So even though my parents weren't intentionally abusive, they were not overtly abusive, unless and until you understand generational trauma and how our unhealed parts get passed down to our kids, they perpetuated a belief system that conditioned me to be a doormat, to have no autonomy, and to ultimately end up in unhealthy relationship dynamics. Now, I'm not angry with my parents. They didn't know better, but now we do. So if you're being called out for behavior that is proven to be harmful, not just from research, but from the people who suffered it, and you intentionally choose to ignore it and continue to live by faulty belief systems that oppress your children and your spouse, then you're making a choice to be abusive.